Mr. President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to address you in my capacity as a special rapporteur during this enhanced interactive dialogue on Eritrea. The human rights situation in Eritrea remains extremely concerning, marked by widespread and systematic impunity for grave human rights violations. Over the past 4 years as a special rapporteur, there has been no evidence of any steps taken to prevent, to investigate, or to redress the grave human rights violations documented by a variety of human rights mechanisms, such as extrajudicial killings, torture, and inhumane or degrading treatment, sexual and gender-based violence, forced labor, enforced disappearances, and arbitrary detention. The complete lack of action by Eritrean authorities over the last 2 decades to address the country's troubling human rights situation is a matter of a governmental policy. The prevailing impunity has ended, enabled the recurrence of human rights violations, and silenced the victims. The identified practices and patterns of gross violations continue unabated. No action has been taken to reform the compulsory and national service. And as a result, Eritreans continue to suffer gross violations in the context of military service. I routinely receive information regarding individuals who have been conscripted for the past 20 years, who have been deprived of their civic and social and economic rights, including the right to work, the right to life, family life, freedom of movement, and the right to education. Further, severe and collective punishments are inflicted on draft evaders, their families, and their communities. Despite the signing of cessation of hostilities agreement between the Ethiopian government and the Tigray People's Liberation Front in November 2022, Eritrea remains in a permanent state of mobilization and continue mobilization and conscription. And the Eritrean Defense Forces are still present in some locations in Tigray, and I continue to receive allegations regarding their involvement in the commission of human rights violations. Eritreans do not have any avenues to participate in decision-making in their own country. No elections have been held over the last 30 years. No political groups are allowed to organize outside the ruling party, and independent media and civil society are not allowed to operate. The Eritrean government is continuously engaged in a general crackdown against any dissenting voices. The lack of civic space in Eritrea is now having spilled over effects in countries of the diaspora, where the pressure by the authorities and affiliated groups of Eritrean refugees and the polarization in Eritrean communities continue to increase, threatening the social fabric. The situation of hundreds of Eritreans subjected to enforced disappearance remain a critical issue of concern. Many of them have remained incommunicado, their fate and whereabouts unknown for over two decades. Their families deserve to know and have the right to truth about their fate. Regrettably, no progress has been made in this regard, and I strongly urge the Eritrean authorities to release all those subjected to arbitrary detention and reveal the whereabouts and the state of health of the disappeared persons. Over the past 2 years, the repression of freedom of religion or belief has been escalated with renewed waves of arrest and efforts to control all aspects of religious life. The plight of Eritrean refugees fleeing their homeland is a poignant reminder of the gravity of the situation in the country. Many embark on perilous journeys, facing risk of human trafficking, exploitation, and violence. This underscores the urgency of addressing the root causes of the human rights crisis within Eritrea and finding lasting solutions. Armed conflicts and insecurity in neighboring countries have compounded the vulnerability of Eritrean asylum seekers and refugees, rendering them highly vulnerable to exploitation and abuse. And I urge, I call on many states to exercise solidarity and adequately protect Eritrean refugees and asylum seekers. Eritrea continues its policy of non-engagement with my mandate. Despite its membership of this council, Eritrea has continued to oppose a mechanism created and implemented by the Human Rights Council. It has repeatedly stated that the only appropriate avenue for engagement on human rights issues is the UPR. At the same time, Eritrea has not implemented the vast majority of the recommendations arising from its third cycle of the Universal Periodic Review. I reiterate my willingness to cooperate with Eritrea, and I appeal to the Human Rights Council members, and in particular to members of the African Group and member states with ties to Eritrea to deploy every tool at their disposal to promote progress on human rights situation in Eritrea. Thank you.